All right, we are live. What's going on, Denzel?
So, so.
For those of you who are just joining us, we're just stay hydrated, grab some water. It's getting dry out here on the West Coast.
Mhm. This
Make sure
air,
you use. I know. I thought we had a little reprieve. I think both of us got out for that 1 week and just got as much outdoor activity as we can possible. Just get it
absolutely.
going. And Denzel, you're going to be doing a cross country trip pretty soon, yeah?
That I am pretty much, yeah, leaving in a few days, and it's one of those things. We're approaching winter time. Things have not been going as I was expecting back in like March, right? Like when COVID first broke out, or at least when we were understanding it. Um, I thought this time of year it would be just different than it is now. So with this realization of like winter coming and my mom being across the country, I'm like, I don't want it to be like 2 years since I last saw her in person. So, let me make this trip and also be able to see a lot of the country that I just haven't ever explored before. So super
Wow.
excited for this. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited for you. And what a valiant kind of thing you're doing to go across country and go state to state. I think it's a testament of your ability to feel your own freedom too. I know a lot of people feel like they're stuck. And even myself, who I'm choosing not to travel at this time, but then also there's that I got kind of giddy, like, oh, he's gonna be traveling. That'll be cool to see your photos and stuff. So if you don't already follow Denzel, it's the at the Strength Den, I think,
Uh,
Denzel.
Power of strength would be the
Uh,
best.
yeah,
Yeah.
Power of Strength on Instagram. You follow
Yeah.
his trip, and he's got some really great stuff.
Well,
For those who are just joining us, Denzel and I are both wellness coaches. We've been doing this little talk show for a couple months now, and although we both come from these very physical backgrounds, both of us are strength coaches. We also do meditation and some other forms of wellness, our own skill sets. But I think it's so important to touch on these subjects that are not so physical, right? Because they have a lot to do with whether we call it psychology, emotional intelligence, being able to be grounded and feel still. And I think right now, like that's a piece that I feel like so many people, I'm sure you could attest to this, that it's hard to grasp. And even we were just saying before you jump on, there's a lot you got to do before you decide to travel across the country. So I thought we'd have our chat today and talk a little bit about what it means to be a leader to ourselves, right? And what kind of not just strategies, but maybe the experiences that have taught you to develop leadership skills that go beyond telling others what to do, right? We're strength coaches. We could easily just be like, do these 5 things and then chill out on the sidelines. I know that I'm not that way. I know that you're not that way. But there's a certain type of, I think, caring, right? A certain type, there's more of these altruistic qualities to being a wellness coach. And then also just living a successful life where you feel like you're not being torn apart all the time. What
yeah.
would you say?
Yeah. I mean, I think, a lot of it's just constantly kind of thinking about how things that I'm doing can be done better. And if I'm finding myself in a situation where I feel like I'm just kind of pushing ahead, like, during all this, we've never been able to see more than a foot in front of us. But I felt like I was going at way too fast of a speed for conditions like that. So I was like, let me see also, like, if I can step away, that way I can get a clearer picture of what I've been doing and how, once I return from this trip, how I can do it better. Um, just because, if you're just moseying along doing things how you've always done them, that's fine. But there usually could be something that's more beneficial for everybody. More beneficial for me to spend my time on. Maybe ways of getting clients to look at things differently. Whatever it may be, it's just being able to actually pause, look at dissect and then figure out, okay, like what is it that I do want to do going forward, and how can I be better for myself? How can I be better for everybody else?
It reminds me of architecture. Of course, I love architecture, and it's in my family history, so I kind of tend to view things in an architectural way. But it's like, you got to design the building before you start putting up the plywood and the everything, and the heating. You have to kind of assess what's going on, and I find that's something that's often missed when we're trying to move forward and create some energy around change we want in our life, right? And I think that was so smart of you to bring that point up, that it's so important for us to recognize that even when we slow down, we're speeding up. You saying you're going to use this trip as a way for you to slow down, but you know that when you're done, you're going to be a completely different person, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's probably the biggest goal of it, is to just, I mean, one is take a break from social media, right? Like realizing where my attention has been stolen, right? Like it's not like I'm deliberately using a lot of these tools or screens or technology. It's almost like they're calling you, right? Like I just watched Social Dilemma last night, and that
Great documentary.
it kind of further cemented like why I want to take this break, because it's, these things are designed to kind of really own your attention. So if you're not deliberately trying to combat those things, you need to know how your own psychology works. And if you're not deliberately trying to combat them, then those things are going to control you. They're going to control your actions. They're going to control your life, right? So it's just the main thing of like trying to be as deliberate with my choices and actions going forward, just because I know that during this time I've just been, blindly kind of giving time without putting a lot of attention to those decisions.
But I guess you would say also that those weren't forgotten tasks, right? You could also say that everything you've done was worthy of its time. Creating a healthy relationship with something that maybe is important, right? Getting a message out there. I think it's like I know that you're not doing this, but there's like often, just for the audience as well, there can be a linear approach where, it's bad, I need to go away from it. And I mean, both you and I are millennials, so we kind of grew up with this as well. It was part of, middle school, high school, college, to engage in, this kind of cerebral sucking activities, but that they do have purpose, and that ultimately we have to learn to use them appropriately. And kudos to you, man, for saying and creating a container that you can make your change in, right? I think that's a skill set, certainly, from all the trainings that you have.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, is taking it from like a strength and conditioning standpoint, where you learn all of these, you learn about all these tools, you learn how to use them, right? And then you'll go online and you'll see people who have tools but don't know how to necessarily use them. And essentially that's what most of the stuff is that we're using on a daily basis. A lot of it we've never been taught how to use, so we're kind of just making it up as we go. So just trying to really take a page out of that playbook on just, okay, how can I actually use these tools to enhance my life, as opposed to just almost being used by these tools, or using them in a way that's not the most positive for myself, right?
Yeah, it makes me. I've never seen this before, but I'm getting this image of like it's a, walkabout for dummies. It's like you imagine you're a tribe and you're about to go on this journey of this experience of becoming a man, and there's all these things you go in and you don't know you're going to face. You don't know if there's the leopard. You don't know if you're going to be able to get food or what. You have to kind of understand and come up with these skills. You imagine if there was like a book that you got beforehand that was like, take a left-hand turn at the creek, and then you're going to, it's like it was all given to you. Would you want to even do it? Right? I feel like there's a lot of information out there. It's not hard to find how to squat best. But then you start doing it and you start realizing you're a unique individual. There are circumstances. What are you really trying to achieve? Is it the same as the book says? What are we accomplishing? Are we just spinning our wheels, or are we, looking at it and going, oh, well, these are the things happening. They're cues for me in my world. You recognize there's too much social media maybe, or you need a break in some form. And so like, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to, obviously you took a direct and like, because you've been practicing paying attention to yourself, practicing listening deeper. I think those are all great qualities of, a self-leadership.
Yeah. I mean, it's, self-leadership, self-care kind of all goes into it.
For sure.
Really, you're just trying to develop yourself and be the best version of yourself that you could possibly be. And in order to really work towards those things is you have to be working on your mind. You have to be working on your body, your emotions. Like if you have a craft that you do, like all of us have careers, like those should be things that we're also trying to get better at. And if we're stagnant in any of them, then, that's a place where issues can arise, right? So it's basically like stagnant water, right? We want to kind of always keep water flowing. That way you can keep all these disease and everything out. So you can think of any part of like your development in that same way, where if things aren't moving, if you're not trying to change, then they're stagnant and they're probably holding you back or bringing you down, or just doing something that you're just unaware of, or you're not controlling when it's something that you could definitely be controlling.
And it seems like we're also talking about foundational pieces, bringing that awareness into the field, seeing, hey, what is going on in my world right now? What are the factors that I'm not seeing? That's a skill. What are some of the things that what tools have you used or trainings that have helped you to develop that skill set for yourself?
Well, I mean, obviously meditation is like,
but and there's thousands of different ways to meditate. Is there a specific way that, you're...
I mean, I think anyway, whether it's Zen, whether it's guided meditation, I don't know that it matters, because the whole idea is to just kind of sit, be more comfortable with yourself, not doing anything, right? Like if you always kind of like want to be doing something, and if we're being like purposely still, there's something that feels wrong about that. Like people don't want to take that moment to find out what is going on in their mind, like what is the clarity of their thought, or how many thoughts are they having, or how little, like, there's this almost like fear of having to sit and be with yourself. So I think meditation does a good job of that, and that's pretty much any sort. And then, any of the movement practices, we'll do the same thing. I don't know. Like
I'm having a little fun with it. I mean, yeah, it's like that one word that I really love. These like juicy words, purposefully, like silent, right? Like there's an intention that you bring forward to your meditation. Certainly you could come at it from a million different directions. I was curious specifically what helped you. Yeah. I also know, I remember, and reminding you, like there's all these, like when you said you're going on your walks in the morning, is that something that you're going to keep up doing while you travel? Or are you going to?
Yeah. Like I was, I was in Tahoe this weekend, and I find a different walk that I do, right? Like basically keep it around the same distance, same amount of time, find a spot that looks good to meditate at the halfway point, and then make my way back. But yeah, the waking up at 5:50 and then, getting outside, moving my body, taking a moment to sit with my mind with myself. I feel I owe it to myself to take time immediately in my day before I give it anywhere else, right? It should be, why not spend that time on yourself? Because if you don't, it's like you don't really know what version of yourself you're gonna be bringing to your day, right?
Absolutely. It's like a bad hair day. You gotta find yourself. I totally. And there's secrets. You have more secrets than maybe even that. Just to bring awareness to it, even what you said about like going up and getting to the top, your halfway midpoint, and then doing your meditation and then coming back down. There's something to be said about that. Why temples were built on the top of a mountain, right? You kind of have to work to get to that point. And so there is this kind of effort of getting through the crunchy parts of our emotional sphere, the crunchy parts of our aches and pains or whatever. And then we get to that midway, you're doing your meditation, whatever that is, feeling the earth, feeling nature, going inwards. And then there's processing. You come down from the mountain. That's always been used in many philosophical texts and poetry. Coming down the mountain, bringing what you learned from your inner self into your world. I just wanted to bring attention to that because I think that is a technique that I think a lot of people could use that you just described so beautifully and practice. And that's something that I try and do as often as possible too.
It's I feel like it's something that I noticed when early in COVID, I was out on a lot of hikes and not really anybody else was out. So there was no distractions. There was no like fear of other humans at that point. There was just nobody. So I was just able to really be present on the task. And I was going up, I don't know to call it a hill or a mountain. I mean, the thing is huge.
We'll call it a ski slope.
Climbing something. And once I got to the top, I was just like, this is amazing. Like, the amount of work that I had to do to get to this point, and then to have the view, like have that reward. And then on the way down, it's just like, you're just thinking about, how worthwhile that whole experience was. And I was like, how can I bring that into my life more? Where it's like, that the work that you put in is going to make something even more worthwhile or feel better once you accomplish it, as opposed to easier tasks. So anytime things start to feel even easy or just comfortable, it's like, shake it up, because if you just maybe struggle a little bit, walk up the hill a little bit more, you don't know what you're going to uncover. And that happened again probably. So right after the smoke cleared, I was out on a hike, and I was doing a hike I had never been on before. And I got to the top of this hill, and I was like, oh, I should meditate here. And then just the thought ran through my mind, like, you should explore this area, because you're probably going to do that after you meditate, and you might find a spot that is calling you more. And as soon as I took a step around this little bend, there was a swing hanging, and it was
magical.
Yeah, literally, I was like, this is nuts. And if I had just been lazy, like, oh no, I'm here, I got to the top of the hill, and that's it, then I would have missed out on one of my favorite places that I've ever meditated at before. So it's just kind of trying to constantly keep your mind open, question what you're doing, right? Like, I didn't put any thought into that first spot I was going to meditate at. It was just kind of like, oh, I'm here, I'll meditate here, as opposed to being like, no, being, like I was saying earlier, just being more purposeful or being more deliberate about your actions. That way you're not just floating through life and ending up wherever you may land. It's like, see where your mark is and try to get to that point.
Yeah. It reminds me of the difference between trying to think in meditation, or the idea of contemplating something, right? Because contemplation is like curiosity. There's a question mark at the end. I don't know what it is, right? It's like trying to understand the universe. Like, even though we may have some calculations, we don't really understand. So the question mark actually brings out this other part of ourselves that feels safer to explore without there being like you could have been like, well, if I don't go back down the mountain, there could be a tiger there. I made, like you could go the other direction, but and maybe there was. There are other spidey senses for that.
Yeah.
So, but it was your curiosity that allowed you to just be like open to the idea, and I think that's just an important aspect of, I think, what we're talking about, because for so many people that are just getting into meditation or trying to just better their life, in little ways, being curious about what can show up in your world, I think, is a great way to be inspired about life, and also to, keep our emotional state more balanced. Just like a child being more innocent about the way we're seeing things. At least that's what I was thinking of when I was listening to you.
No, I like that, and I like the contemplation part, because like whatever book I'm reading, I'm always trying to think of like, what are one of the lessons that could be trying to be taught to you at this moment, right? So it's
sure,
like you're saying, like I don't know, but like there's a lot of stuff that I can contemplate about. I can be curious about, oh, okay, maybe this thing could apply to this point, right? So it's just kind of trying to always look for those teaching moments in pretty much any situation that you're in, and not just trying to, again, leave it up to fate. It's like, okay, you're having an interaction. What is the thing that you can take away from that interaction? What is the thing that's trying to be taught to you? What is just basically the purpose of any of the things that you're doing. There's always a purpose behind, at least this is what I think, there's always a purpose behind every book you read, every interaction you have. It
reminds me of a good crime show. Like we like to watch a lot of like British crime, and it's because they're so good, and usually there's no technology in the show, so you get to really see these sleuths, and there's such a depth of being able to be curious about what's around the corner, and even though there may be danger, there's a heightened sense of this playful atmosphere that brings us into a state of the bigger picture, right? And I think that's so helpful. It has been helpful for me, that kind of philosophy where we're not trying to overthink the challenge. You spend a lot of time thinking about it instead of spending more time being curious and allowing what maybe was already there to reveal itself. That park bench, or the swinging chair, it was there the whole time.
Yeah.
And so what alluded to this grander awareness, and I think that's also the difference between like being the leader for yourself, like you're in the car seat, like driving around, like, oh, I'm curious, where am I going to go that's going to bring the next thing, the next adventure, as opposed to the person who may be in the back seat or the side seat, the passenger seat, going, well, I don't know where we're going, but where are you taking me? And where is life? That's I can't go there. And so there's kind of like a paranoia that starts. And I think that when we're talking about developing good leadership skills for ourselves, certainly all is welcome, but that we start to develop an inner sense of, okay, I know that person I'm playing, right? And then who do I want, like you said earlier, who do I want to show up as? Right?
Exactly. Yeah. And it's leaving room to explore too, right? Like not being stuck in your current ways. Like, no, this is who I am. It's like, well, this is who you've been, but like, it doesn't necessarily need to be who you're always going to be. So it's like, it should always
or will it?
Yeah, exactly. So it should be your choice. If you want to change who you are, in 5 minutes, who are you going to ask for permission?
What?
You know what I mean? like mentioned, it's still you're still going to be you. So you should feel free to completely change your mind, your opinion, whatever you want within a moment's notice. So
That'd be a great video, a great course, Denzel. The 5-minute makeover. Just
right,
do it. You're done.
that's it.
Yeah. I actually put a makeover that is 5 minutes on my website. I've already made one. Yeah, it's a 5-minute makeover for people who come to the website, get a free gift. And it's, I mean, I say this with comedy and a lot of love for the wellness community and also for myself. You know, we're trying to be good role models for people in the world. And I know people love makeovers, and really it's a process of discerning like what's on your plate and how do you take action on something in your life. And it's the fun thing. We go from the big to the small, right? We want to like make big changes, and then you realize, well, what can I do today? You know, and it's taking that one little thing, that one little tip that you, right? I know that for myself, it could be like a little quote. That could be my one thing that I see that transforms my entire day. Yeah, I'm sure there's something for you. What's one thing that you have seen recently that's kind of pivoted your world?
I mean, honestly, I'm gonna look up what you were saying earlier about the temples being on hills, because it's like, you know, that is definitely something that's noticeable. And as soon as you said it, I'm like, yeah, that's the truth. But like, I just kind of want to dive into that more, because that's like oh wow, yeah, this is the whole idea of like training, of having like a peak and then a valley, and you know, it's all intertwined. So it's just like another situation where it's a completely different scenario, but it's still saying the same thing of just the importance of waving and change, a never-ending change that will just happen in your life, and that it will always, you know, be this up and down kind of motion. So, yeah. So anytime
I love it, man. I'm going to throw you one more piece of info. If anyone else wants to look it up, I'm curious to have a conversation. It's called the 9 Waves of Creation, and it's the Mayan prophecy for this time period we live in. Not to make it drastic, but the wave, think of a wave, right? The peaks and the troughs.
Yeah.
And these waves of creation that I think it explains a lot, and maybe we'll talk about this at another conversation, this idea of how civilization goes through peaks and troughs, and how we, and also consciousness goes through peaks and troughs, and how we evolve over time collectively and individually.
Sweet.
I love it, man. So for those of you watching, we're talking about being a better leader to yourself. I hope that you've gotten some little tidbits. There's a lot of really great information in the last 30 minutes. Once again, this video will go up on YouTube afterwards, on Facebook. It'll stay there for a little bit on my page and Denzel's. If you have any questions for either of us, please post them in the comments and we'll get back to you in a reasonable time. Even though Denzel's going to be on a social media trip, maybe I'll have to answer those. Yeah, that'll be interesting when Facebook has a I'm out of town, you know, contact me in a month. I'm sure it'll happen.
Yeah, that's actually shocking that they don't.
You have to have, that's for Slack.
Yeah, because I'll have that on my email. I'm gonna have that everywhere. Like if I can get it on text message,
I'm gonna email you like 1,000 times. It's awesome.
Going off. I'm just like,
yeah.
I mean, I'm just super excited to be like seeing so many places that I've never been to, that weren't even before COVID. Like I wasn't really thinking about doing any trip like this at all. So it's just like
That's right. You're going to be going to a few Indian reservations.
Yeah, I haven't looked up a single name yet. So the first one we did look up one that we're not going to go to. That is in the Grand Canyon. So we're going to try for some that are in between, like Zion and Yellowstone.
Ooh, yeah. Zion's one of my favorite spots. That's gorgeous, man. Well, I wish you a wonderful trip.
Thank you.
It's gonna be great. Yeah, awesome. So once again, you can follow Denzel at Power of Strength on Instagram for his trip around, and we'll catch you next time on Living a Better Life. Thanks, Denzel, for joining.
Yeah,
It's
thank you.
awesome. All right, bye for now.